Nikola Tesla died alone in a New York hotel room, in love with a pigeon. The man who illuminated the modern world spent his final years feeding birds, avoiding round objects, and counting his steps in multiples of 3. History calls him eccentric. Biographers call him troubled. But what if Tesla's bizarre behaviors weren't random quirks of genius? What if they were symptoms of a profound psychological condition that both fueled his innovations and destroyed his life? Tesla's mind operated differently. He didn't sketch his inventions on paper like Edison. Instead, he built them completely in his imagination, testing and refining every component in vivid mental simulations before constructing physical prototypes. He called these visions, immersive daydreams so detailed he could examine his imaginary machines from every angle, run them for weeks in his mind, then check for wear on the parts. This wasn't ordinary creativity. This was maladaptive daydreaming, a psychological phenomenon where fantasy becomes so consuming it interferes with real-world functioning. People with maladaptive daydreaming create elaborate inner worlds, spending hours daily in immersive mental scenarios they struggle to control. Sound familiar? Tesla's mental imagery began in childhood. After his brother's death, young Nikola experienced visions so intense he couldn't distinguish them from reality. Flashes of light would appear, followed by fully formed mental images. He learned to control these experiences, eventually weaponizing them into his revolutionary design process. But control remained tenuous. Tesla described being unable to distinguish whether what I saw was tangible or not. His daydreams had physiological effects. His pulse raced, his body trembled. The boundary between imagination and perception stayed dangerously thin throughout his life. Modern psychology recognizes this pattern. Maladaptive daydreaming often emerges as a coping mechanism for trauma or isolation. Tesla's childhood included his brother's tragic death, intense pressure from his father, and severe illness. His inner world became safer than the outer one. His imagination became both sanctuary and prison. The compulsive counting, the obsession with the number 3, the inability to touch round objects. These weren't separate eccentricities. They were anxiety-driven rituals. Tesla exhibited clear signs of obsessive-compulsive disorder, likely developed to manage the overwhelming nature of his mental experiences. When your inner world feels chaotic and uncontrollable, external rituals create the illusion of order. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Tesla's greatest innovations emerged directly from his psychological differences. His alternating current system, his Tesla coil, his wireless transmission dreams, all were seen complete in his mind before existing in reality. His maladaptive daydreaming wasn't separate from his genius. It was the mechanism of his genius. This creates a troubling question. Would treating Tesla's conditions have saved his life but cost humanity his inventions? It's a false dichotomy, but one that haunts discussions of neurodiversity and mental health. We romanticize the tortured genius while ignoring the actual torture. Tesla's immersive mental world enabled unprecedented innovation but prevented normal human connection. He never married, claiming celibacy was essential for his scientific focus. But his writings reveal profound loneliness. His relationships existed primarily with ideas, not people. His most intimate connection was with a white pigeon he believed communicated with him through beams of light. The isolation intensified his conditions. Without grounding relationships, his reality testing weakened. His later claims, death rays, earthquake machines, contact with Mars, grew increasingly disconnected from physics. His daydreams, once productive, became delusional. The same mechanism that built the modern electrical grid eventually trapped him in fantasies he couldn't materialize. Tesla cultivated a public image of mysterious genius. He dressed impeccably, dined at the finest restaurants, and staged dramatic demonstrations. He projected control and sophistication. But this was performance, impression management masking internal chaos. His famous public demonstrations reveal the anxiety underneath. He'd showcase his Tesla coil, standing calmly while electricity arced around him. Audiences saw fearless confidence. But Tesla's writings describe constant terror that his inventions would fail publicly, that his visions would prove unreproducible in reality. He exhibited classic high-functioning anxiety, external competence masking internal turmoil. He appeared at society events while obsessively calculating the cubic content of his food. He impressed investors while requiring 18 napkins at every meal. His compulsions intensified under stress, yet he maintained the facade of the controlled genius. The perfectionism was pathological. Tesla abandoned projects if they didn't match his mental vision exactly. He couldn't collaborate because others couldn't see what he saw. His business failures stemmed partly from this, an inability to accept good enough when his mind contained perfect. Tesla's final decades reveal the trajectory of untreated conditions. As funding dried up and contemporaries died, his isolation became complete. His compulsions worsened. The daydreams that once produced inventions now produced only unfulfillable promises. He lived on credit, feeding pigeons, claiming to receive cosmic messages. This wasn't poetic tragedy. This was a man whose psychological conditions, once channeled into productivity, consumed him when external structure disappeared. Without projects to focus his mental energy, his mind turned against itself. The visions became intrusive. The rituals became imprisoning. Modern treatment might have changed this trajectory. Cognitive behavioral therapy for OCD could have reduced compulsions without eliminating creativity. Medication might have regulated anxiety while preserving mental imagery. Trauma therapy could have addressed childhood wounds driving his inner retreat. Understanding Tesla psychologically doesn't diminish his achievements, it illuminates them. His innovations weren't despite his conditions, but through them, channeled productively during periods of external structure and collaboration. When that structure collapsed, so did he. This matters beyond historical curiosity. We still romanticize the isolated genius, the eccentric inventor, the tortured creator. We treat suffering as the price of innovation. But Tesla's life suggests the opposite. His suffering eventually limited his impact. His best work happened when his conditions were managed through routine, funding, and purpose. The lesson isn't that psychological differences prevent genius. It's that genius survives and thrives with support, not isolation. Tesla needed what he never received, understanding that his mind worked differently without judgment, that it worked wrongly. Treatment that preserved his gifts while easing his suffering. Nikola Tesla illuminated the world, then died in darkness, not because his brilliance required suffering, but because suffering, left untreated, consumes even the brightest minds. His legacy isn't just alternating current, it's a reminder that genius needs compassion, structure, and support to flourish sustainably. The real tragedy isn't his eccentricity, it's that we celebrated it while he suffered through it, alone.